All right, YouTube. This Detroit's HPTV coming to you out of Detroit. It's Tuesday, the 16th. And before we get started on the clip I want to show you, I want to thank all the channel members that reached out to me and aided me in my situation with the truck and the eviction situation. Now, on the channel, I've never asked you guys to donate, but you did show me a lot of support in the channel. And I think a lot of you guys that's not members, y'all should become members. You know what I mean? Because this is a strong community. It's not as big as a lot of channels, but it's some good people in this channel, and you can see their nature by looking at their comments. Okay. Now I want to address another thing as it relates to the channel. I've had people, they get in the comments and they be like, why I don't do a lot of reporting on the war and on things that other people may be saying trendy, like what's going on with Puff Diddy, what's going on in Hollywood. And I report on that as it relates to something serious, to something beneficial to the community. But the sensationalism and the negativity without solutions, I feel like it'd be a waste of time sometimes, you know, because most, podcasts or bloggers, they tell you about situations, but they don't have a channel that considers itself solution based and orientated. So, in this channel, I want it to be like minded individuals addressing real issues that's going on in the community. You know, I was looking at this clip I'm going to show you today. The Democratic Party, they say that Trump is the most divisive of the two candidates. I don't see it that way because most of the citizens, we're not divided against other citizens. We're divided because we don't like the governmental policies and politics that affect the community and affects our bottom line. We don't really appreciate not being able to get benefits, and even the benefits we paid into, such as unemployment, housing, Section 8. The real citizens who've been in this country paying on these things can't get the help or assistance because they have made the illegal immigrants and migrants their first priority, which is divisive. It's divisive to see so many people in need and they have to watch their government who taxes them and who they pay taxes to put a whole nother country of individuals before them. You know what I mean? And 10 million migrants came into this country. That is a whole nother country. That is a lot of people to be trying to take care of when you're not taking care of your own. You know what I mean? My situation is bad, but I couldn't imagine being a actual veteran and not being able to get the benefits from this country after I risked my life trying to defend it. And then another reason I don't really like to report or do know a lot of reporting on the war because I was born in 1966. I grew up during the Vietnam War. I watched it on black and white TVs when they first brought caskets homes with soldiers. And I watched how the actual coverage traumatized citizens. I watched traumatized men come back to a community. I had an uncle. He went to Vietnam. His name was Milo. Milo was a good dude, but he was so traumatized. In the middle of the night, he would jump out the bed, still thinking he was in Vietnam, grabbing his gun. You know what I mean? Then he eventually passed away from some type of cancer he developed over there. And I watched that as a kid. I watched Desert Storm, uh, both wars in Iraq, what went on in Guatemala, uh, You just name it. There's always wars. And when the wars are overseas, I started to learn as I got older that the community and the people in this country were being traumatized and victimized financially, economically, and emotionally and mentally. So if you grew up in the era that I grew up, you know you've seen this again and again and again. So there's plenty of people reporting on it so you can see it. I had another I had another guy, he was like, well, you from Highland Park in Detroit, why do you don't do a lot of stories on Highland Park? And I used to do a lot of stories on the crime going on in Detroit and at other places. But I started to see it was so much crime everywhere, so much heinous crime that it started making me kind of depressed. And I even had a person get in my comments saying, I'm tired of seeing all this depressing and traumatizing things, even though it's the world, you know. So it's out there for people who want to follow the war and other things and even report on crime. It's easy to find. I would like to do journalism that's solution based. Like what we gonna do about it, you know. That's why I always say the first thing we have to do is we have to get together with like-minded people. You know what I mean? And we have to show the news that directly affects us. You know what I'm saying? I mean, of course, there are people who, you want to be entertained, but right now, as serious as things is, you know, entertainment is not as important as education, information, and commentary that leads to some kind of answers or solutions, or at least some type of way to fight back, if you understand what I'm saying. And that leads me to this story. And it's really interesting how hypocritical the Biden administration is. They really have a problem with the people at the Trump rally that was calling Joe Biden Genocide Joe. They want to call Donald Trump a criminal, and the people that support Trump or people they consider conservatives, they want to call us all type of names. But in all actuality, when you look at them over there on the left, they have went so far left that they are part of atrocities. You know what I mean? They're waging a backwards cultural movement in this country with our children and with censorship, how they not respecting the Constitution. But if you criticize them, then you're a bigot, it's racism, or something wrong with you for calling a spade a spade. So I want you to see what they were saying at the rally and hear their commentary. So this is from the Rising Hill. I'm gonna do a reaction to their clip. It's for fair usage, commentary, educational purpose under the 1976 Copyright Act. Check out this. This is what they mad about.
And welcome to Rising. We've got a great show for you to kick off the week. Donald Trump will be making history today, by the way, becoming the first former president to stand trial in a criminal case. In just hours, the jury selection is set to begin in the Stormy Daniels hush money trial. But before we get into that, the former president also has embraced the Genocide Joe slogan that originated from progressive circles. Let's take a listen to that. Trump opened his rally in Schnecksville, Pennsylvania, with scathing remarks about the October 7th Hamas attack and Iran's barrage of missile strikes against targets in Israel, blasting President Biden's leadership as weak for enabling the Israel-Hamas war.
Trump's attacks on Biden come on the heels of the hush money trial, the first of 4 criminal cases in New York City, which will start today and could last 6 to 8 weeks. The blockbuster case stems from payments then Trump fixer Michael Cohen made to adult entertainer Stormy Daniels to stay quiet about claims she made that she had an affair with Trump in 2000.
Now, I'm going to interject right there. I don't know if you have really followed that aspect of what they're charging Trump with. Trump was being extorted, allegedly, because they're saying it's hush money. Hush money. So that means somebody basically has some type of dirty information on you. And they letting you know that they have dirty information on you. And then they accept money from you to not tell what they know. And then after they've successfully extorted you by letting you know that they were ready to expose you, when they finish with the money you give them, that they call it hush money, they come back for more. So basically, they're trying to prosecute him for being extorted. Think about that. Alleged.
2006. Cohen allegedly paid her $130,000 leading up to the 2016 election, which Trump reimbursed him for after he won. Will a conviction of Trump impact his prospects in November? That's the $64 million question. GOP New Hampshire Governor.
You see what I'm saying? The ex-porn star accepted $130,000. Then after she blew through that, she comes back with another proceeding trying to sue. And ain't no telling who putting her up to this. But this is what the people in the country is mad about, because you can clearly see, if you got common sense, you accepted $130,000 to keep your mouth shut. Basically, you extorted me, because whatever we did, you didn't have to tell anybody. But when he got ready to run for president, it was a money grab, allegedly. You know what I mean? Because they had, the Democratic Party, they co-opted the Me Too movement. They co-opt any movement that's anti-nuclear family, any movement that is geared towards social unrest. They co-opt it and they use it as a weapon for their party. You can see that clearly.
Sununu doesn't think so. Here's what he told George Stephanopoulos on ABC this week, Sunday.
This trial is not going to have major political ramifications that a lot of people, I think it may have. And when it comes to these issues, people see it more as reality TV at this point. They really do. And so, whether it's a conviction or what that conviction looks like, a lot of folks, they conflate all 4 of these different trials that he's in. I don't think it's good that he's going to be in the court, have to be in there probably 3 days a week, for a number of weeks. That takes him off the campaign trail. He'll probably go back on the campaign trail and almost like rehash what's going on. He'll try to victimize it. And that has worked for him, right? I mean, this has been going on for over a year, and his poll numbers never seem to go down because of the issue.
Now, 55% of registered voters said a Trump conviction in the hush money case would make no difference on how they vote in November, and 29% said they'd be less likely to vote for him. This according to a recent Quinnipiac University poll.
All right. Lots to get into.
Just getting it out of the way, that Donald Trump clip went viral, and for good reason. One, how surprised were you to hear a Trump audience, a conservative MAGA audience, picking up a chant of Genocide Joe, seemingly rooting their concerns about Joe Biden, not in his age or Hunter Biden corruption or any of the other issues which have been foregrounded by the Republican Party this season, but by expressing discontent with how he's backing Israel in its siege on Gaza.
Yeah, it was pretty incredible to hear that from a Trump crowd, and it makes one wonder whether that will have some kind of influence on what Trump's policy would be with respect to the Middle East. Obviously, we've been talking in recent weeks about him sounding a difficult-ish to read, but a note that is being perceived by very pro-Israel people to be actually hostile to their perspective.
And they don't understand, like, they like to call the Trump supporters MAGA. You know what I mean? Which means make America great again. You know what I mean? Now, if you are an American and you see what's happening in this country, wouldn't you want to make America great again? Wouldn't you want that to be the basis of your candidate running, that he wants to make America great again, versus I'm going to give you abortion. I'm going to make sure you can have an abortion in every city, every county in the country. Well, at the same time, they're talking about Americans are not populating as they should. We're not having as many babies as we used to. Ain't that the old sleight of the hand by Joe Biden? We're not having as many children as the country used to because abortion has took the place of morals, values, and abstinence. That's why we're not having any babies, because there's no consequences for lewd behavior. There's no consequences for not having being responsible for what you do with your own body. So they make it a governmental thing. Now somebody wants to take your right to abort your child, but then you say you're a Christian nation. You know what I mean? And you say, what does the Bible say? And it's easy. Get you a Bible. What is the Bible stance on abortion? You know what I mean? And then with the censorship in this country, what does the Constitution say as it relates to the First Amendment, the 14th, the right to due process, the 8th, freedom from cruel and unusual punishment? So you have one party, this whole campaign is based on anti-Bible, anti-Constitution. But they mad because the other one is saying, I'm going to make America great again. It's not hard to pick a side when it comes to that if you educated and you informed. Most people, they'll say Trump, he's a liar, but they can never point to anything that he lied about, where you can just go and pull up any clip of Joe Biden and catch him in a lie. Like when he said, I remember when I went and I met Nelson Mandela and we marched in Soweto and all that, and it never happened. Who does that? Who makes up an entire fake story for no reason, just a habitual liar? So if he make a wild story, I mean, you can't believe anything that man says. And you know, if if Trump's children were caught up in the things that Hunter Biden is, they would be out trying to really bring him down. But they trying to say that he's dividing the country. He's not dividing the country. The country is dividing themselves. You know, separating the sheep from the goat, the wheat from the tare. You know what I mean? People are separating based on some people love God and some people love Satan. But they don't want to make it that clear cut. They want to make murky the waters. And you know what I mean? They said, just in this clip, they said Trump embraces the genocide Joe chant. They came up with it. He heard it and he said they're not wrong. But they twist every word. That's why we need good journalism. And basically, you should be able to decide for yourself which way you're going with these things.
Perspective. He has urged Netanyahu to, wrap this up, get it done, etc. And get it done can be do this war even harder and more aggressively, or it could be read as this needs to be brought to a close. I think Trump absolutely understands that the optics of it are bad for Biden, that it's hurting him. And so I'm not actually surprised that he's leaning into that rhetoric as well, but it goes to show that you could have a very different foreign policy under Donald Trump. We don't really know.
I would be very skeptical about there being any substantive policy shift because we saw how his foreign policy toward Israel was when he was president for 4 years.
But that was before Netanyahu congratulated Joe Biden on winning the presidency.
Well, I would really caution voters to look very closely at what Donald Trump's record is. He really exploits the fact that there is ambiguity around his positions, that the reporters he's willing to sit down with, on the rare occasion that he sits down with real journalists for an adversarial interview, are very sympathetic to him politically, very rarely ask.
See, I can be honest. I don't really focus on what's going on over there because it's too much happening here. Like I told you, I was looking for assistance through programs that had been directed toward my community. You know what I mean? At this point, I'm a senior citizen. I've been taxed my whole life. But I can't get any assistance or benefits because they have slated the things we fought for in this country and given them to immigrants. And they do it in your face. They do it in your face. Yesterday, I had to run errands while I had a ride. And you seen going toward downtown, you seen so many immigrants just out and about. And on one part on the street called Living Noise, they've have started having their own little small businesses. Like, they come here and they immediately get a business loan. How you get a business loan when you don't even have ID? How do you get a job when you don't speak English? And the reason I'm saying speak English, think about this. If you can't speak a language, you damn sure can't write it and read it. I can speak a little bit of Spanish, but I can't write a letter in Spanish. I can't fill out an application in Spanish. You know what I'm saying? But for some reason, they're able to get this type of assistance and get a leg up. And they want to say that Trump is dividing the country because he wants to shut the border. I mean, it's almost like in this country, there is a fog of cognitive dissonance and like a lot of people is brainwashed. And they want to say it's the conservatives that's brainwashed. But think about the facts I've just laid out to you. The conservatives say close our border, stop flooding our communities with people from Venezuelan prisons, stop flooding our community with these criminals, stop giving these criminals the benefits that you should be giving to veterans and senior citizens, and investing in the infrastructure in a community. And I'm gonna go back for a minute when the guy talked about how I don't do a lot of reporting on Highland Park. I was reporting on the crime and different things that happened in Highland Park. But then there was a story about Avalon Village. Avalon Village is a little like block where this lady named Mama Shu has structured and rehabbed all these buildings for children after school, job training. She did it on her own by herself. She's been getting donations now, and it's big because all the children in that community have access to this village that she has created. I did that story, nobody picked up on it. But if I put out a story about some nefarious Luciferian Joe Brown shot this Brown and this one was sleeping with this one and all of that, that's what they like. And that's what YouTube likes to push. My numbers don't be high because I don't talk about what they want you to talk about. They want me to talk about the debauchery. They want me to talk about the exploitation. That's what sells. When you talk like how we be communicating on this channel, it's not really valued to most people who just want to be entertained. I try to give you um, good news and good journalism in my perspective versus really being entertainment. You know what I mean? I don't really like. I'm really not here to entertain you. But if you find entertainment in it, it's okay.
Ask him on about the kinds of questions that would be divisive to his audience. And so if you are sincerely concerned about what's going on in Gaza, you should realize that perhaps neither Joe Biden or Donald Trump is the candidate for you. But what I think Donald Trump does get credit for here is having a much better read of what the culture attitudes are, the public attitudes are about these things, and taking rhetorical shifts that are more effective in the.
Now let me tell you this too, and this is an interesting perspective. It's a Muslim congressman. I think is not Ilhan Omar. Well, Ilhan Omar is Muslim too, but Talib Rashid. Talib Rashid supports the Arab community in Dearborn. And what she's doing is she's acting for her constituents and her Muslim base like she's really going to change what's going on in Gaza. She's a politician. She knows good and well that policy will never change. Israel and the United States, they committed to being allies and pushing each other's agenda to the very end. So she gets in front of her people and I want a ceasefire and I want a ceasefire, knowing she has no way of accomplishing that. Her voice is not that big. Her voice is basically used to be a minority that offsets the black people in Detroit. You follow what I'm saying? Henry Ford built up most of Detroit and Dearborn stamping plant. You know what I mean? And Flat Rock, all these factories that used to be in Detroit. I know for a fact. My father worked at Ford for 42 years, 42 straight years until they forced him out because he wouldn't sell his pension. And he was getting older, but he was still able to work. So my uncles worked at Chrysler and General Motors, and you even seeing the people at Chrysler. Their union sided with Joe Biden, and now their union has become so weak it won't defend its workers. It's people that work at Chrysler for 20 and 30 years, and they miss 1 or 2 days or get into trouble with attendance, they firing them. Now, roll that back in your head. If you've been working there for 20 to 30 years, that means that you've gotten 50 or close to 50 if it's 20 years. That means you've been there almost, like I say, till you become a senior citizen. So now they can't force you out unless they create an attendance issue. Then they fire you. What kind of union do they have? When I was growing up, my father then was in the union. When they striked, they striked. I remember the union people used to come to our house and bring us big old cans of green peas because I hated green peas, but the food was scarce because the money was scarce because the factories were striking. Nobody was working, but they was enduring it. And everything that they fought for back then, this new union and their new union leaders is giving it away. But the Michigan police forces and agencies have endorsed Trump. Did y'all know that? The Michigan police has endorsed Trump, and the UAW has endorsed Biden, and the Teamsters have endorsed Trump. Now, the UAW chief that endorsed Biden, he knows that China is building car factories, right in Mexico to compete with the very people that he is supposed to represent. And they're using diversity and inclusion to put them into certain jobs and integrate them into the UAW and into the factories in Detroit. So when you get over here to Dearborn, where Talita Rashid is, and you hear her rhetoric and she's so pro Gaza, pro Palestine, whatever. I think she best can serve her country by going back to her country, her and Ilhan Omar. If you really want to help your country, go back. How you gonna help from over here? You just a distraction over here to us. That's why I really don't like to report on it, because it's more of the same old, same old, and all it does is traumatize when you know the politics. It's easy to see through their politics. The UAW leader endorses Biden, who's opened the borders for immigrants and cheap labor, while he knows China is building factories right in Mexico, right on the other side of our border. What would make him do that? When he see that the Teamsters not endorsing Biden, the state police is not endorsing Biden, it's the auto workers, the same ones who's making these cars so that they break on you and you can't get a regular mechanic to fix it, because they done made it where it costs thousands of dollars just to get your car fixed. They all in it together. And if you speak on it, they're gonna say you're a conspiracy theorist or you a kook, but they do it right in your face all the time. So I'm gonna finish up and let you see some more of this.
Ones that Joe Biden is taking. And so responding in that real-time way to an audience comes off as kind of authentic. They're not wrong.
Yeah.
It's almost like a sitcom bit.
Yeah.
It's like they're not wrong.
Yeah.
You know, what are you going to do? And I do wonder if that rhetorical shift from Donald Trump will start to put even more pressure on Joe Biden, regardless of whether or not it's sincere on a policy basis. What do you then make of some of these other troubles that are still following Donald Trump around? I know the polls show that most voters wouldn't change their mind based on the outcome of this case.
Yeah,
but that
especially
doesn't mean
this case.
But if 29% of voters still would, that's a substantial.
I'm going to end it right there because I'm seeing that I went to like 30 minutes. And then, I don't know, like the algorithm shows that most people, they have their phones or they watch their podcast on the go. So you have, if you can give it to them and get your story in like 30 minutes or better, then, they can get whatever message you had. Because, I mean, I've seen some podcasters and they do 2, 3 hours, 5 hours. You know what I'm saying? And that's interesting, but most of the time I can't watch all of that and sit through all of that. You know what I mean? I would like to be able to hear the message and you get to the meat of it. And then I can do the research or dissect the story myself after you give it to me, then I just get to the meat of it. But I just wanted to show you this story because it relates to everything that's going on in this country and how they saying we divided and how they want to blur the lines and we can't get back to what's real, what's really affecting us. When I talked about my situation, I looked into the comments and there was so many people that's been supporting a part of this channel that really rallied behind me. Big Al Trailer in Louisiana, Karen out of Cleveland, a lady named Donna Reed. I don't even know where she's from. Just so many ones that did help me uh, financially. They help with encouraging words, job information, and things of that nature. And that's the kind of community I'd rather be a part of. You know what I'm saying? To where we really dealing with what's real. You know, and there's a lot of podcasts out here that's for entertainment purposes, but that's not really what this channel is about. So if you've been a subscriber, why don't you guys join the memberships? You know, I don't ever ask you guys for donations, but become a member because I looked at the member list and it's a lot of good people, that's a part of this channel. So it's 7:51 in the morning on Tuesday. I'm gonna let y'all get back to work and finish on the rest of your day. I got to get up out of here and make some moves. But if there's a story that I see that's worth telling or the information that I could disseminate through here that I think you guys can utilize without it being traumatizing and you know what I mean, and sensational, I'm definitely gonna get back on here and repost. So this is Detroit's HPTV again. Signing to you out Detroit. Keep your head on a swivel. Like, share, and subscribe. And again, salute to all the patriots. Peace.